factors affecting the RMP. Now, as we know, the main factor in RMP is potassium. Okay, so if they ask you what is the main factor for RMP genesis, the answer would be obviously potassium. It is potassium. Okay, why? See, now we see the minor role in RMP genesis. So main role is obviously potassium. Now we see the minor. Okay, so first is chloride. So first, what is the case? Chloride is permeable, hence help in RMP. So why it is helping? Because it is permeable at rest, so it is helping. Okay, but less than potassium. Why? Due to yes, rather right, higher permeability of potassium. Okay, so less than this, rather you can say due to and lower for chloride. Okay, so what is the case? It is less. Why? Due to the higher permeability of potassium, it has a lower, or you can say lesser effect in this case. Okay, now let's see one thing. If you put the K plus value, this permeability, it is equal to 1. So take it 1 means what? It's taking it as a fully permeable. Okay, so the P chloride comes to be around 0.45. So you can easily see it is almost half or even less than half of the potassium permeability. Okay, now interesting thing, P sodium is 0.02 to 0.05. So you can take it almost 2% of the potassium. So it's not 0, but very close to 0. So that is why the total current it produces is almost insignificant. It is what? Easily over, you can say, shadowed by the potassium currents. So that is why the currents of the sodium are insignificant. It's hardly half or 1 millivolts. So that is why it is almost taken to be almost insignificant. So it is very low. Hence, okay, we take it 0. It is not 0. It is 0.02. Okay, so that means almost 50 times more permeable is the potassium. So what ion is the main cause? Potassium is the main. So therefore, it is the main. It is minor, and it is no role. It is no role. Okay. Now second factor is sodium potassium pump. Sodium potassium pump. Okay. So first is it has actually has 2 units, but sometimes can be 3. Okay. So 2 main units. Okay. Alpha and beta. Alpha and beta. Okay. And sometimes a small Fi unit also. So that is not important. You can ignore it. Okay. Now out of these two, the alpha is the main. So alpha is main. Alpha is main. Why? It bind sodium, potassium, bind ATP, and has ATPase activity. So technically, all the major functions are done by alpha unit. So one simple rule to remember, which I always use for my alpha, is like the alpha means it will do everything. So alpha is always in front, आगे है और सब कुछ खुद करेगा. That means alpha will take the lead, and alpha is doing almost every possible activity. So bind the ions, bind the ATP, has ATPase, does the main transport. Okay, beta is mainly binding and giving the support. Okay, and second, it is blocked by ORN and digitalis. That's why they both are technically poisons. Okay, they act as metabolic poison. They stop the meta by blocking the pump. Okay, so ORN and digitalis. Okay, next, it is a universal pump. Okay, so it is a universal pump. Why? As it is present on all cells. Okay, all cells. Where? At basolateral membrane. So what is the location? Basolateral membrane. So it is located on the basolateral. Okay, and what is the coupling ratio? Coupling ratio is 3:2. What does it mean? It pump 3 sodium out and 2 potassium in. Okay, now what it looks like, let's see. Let's see the cell. Okay, it's the basal border. This is the apical or luminal border. So this is the basolateral. This is ECF. This is ICF. Okay. Now we know sodium is more in the ECF. Still, this pump is going to push 3 sodium out. Okay, and it brings 2 potassium in. Okay, and some people say a very easy mnemonic to remember it. That is Nokia. If you ever forget, remember the mnemonic is Nokia. So Nokia mnemonic means Nokia. That is N out, K in. That is sodium out, potassium in. That's Nokia. Now, okay, yeah. I don't say A. So Nokia. Okay. Now understand. Where is sodium more? Where is sodium more? So obviously sodium is more outside. Still, it is pumping sodium out. So that means it is pumping against gradient. Against the gradient. Okay, using ATP. So that's why it becomes primary active transport. Primary active transport. So this kind of transport, it is a primary active transport. Okay, so it is a type of primary active transport. Are you get? Second question. Okay, this sodium potassium pump, which is what type? Primary active transport, is having which all features? First is, if this pump was not there, the sodium will eventually reach equilibrium. Sodium is more outside, but it always want to come inside, and some sodium is always leaking in. So let's say sodium is leaking in via sodium channels. So now understand, just like a water cycle, the sodium enters inside, the pump throws outside. So that's why this cycle will never stop. Like example, we have a water tank. When you open the tap, the water comes. But how does the water always goes back to the tank? The answer is there's a motor. The motor pump the water to the tank, and the tank using gravity lets the water flow into the tap. So that's why the cycle will continue if the pump is operational. So now the same way, sodium is more outside and wants to come inside. That's a natural gradient. And if the pump is not there, it will what? Come, then stop coming by. It will reach equilibrium. So first question is, it maintain high sodium in ECF and high potassium in ICF. Okay, throughout life. Now see the beauty of this thing. Okay, because sodium is always high inside. When you open sodium channel, it will come inside, and it can bring glucose, amino acids also. So that means it helps not just in ionic transport and all this, but also help in the transport of the solids. Second question, because potassium is high inside, it has a net gradient to flow outside, and that creates RMP. So that means it helped in RMP and AP both by creating high sodium in the ECF, and so that is why it helped in RMP and AP both by yes maintaining the gradient. So that means if sodium potassium pump stop working, the gradient will dissolve. That means, let's say example, a neuron is not getting enough blood, so ATPs are not being formed. So now what happens? Initially it will pump sodium out, but then it will stop pumping sodium out. So when you give a stimulus, sodium come AP. After few APs, there will be no gradient left. The sodium will be equal inside and outside. And now what happens? The AP will stop, and there will be no RMP also. So RMP will become zero. AP will be abolished. So that is why if pump stop, there will be no AP and no RMP, and you get a flat line. You will get a, because the RMP negative, and you will get what? You will get a 0 millivolt value. Are you clear? That means there will be no negative RMP, no AP. That means the entire system collapses. Are you clear now? So that is why it will stop. So therefore, neurons who are making AP and having RMP all the time require tremendous amount of ATP. So that is why neurons are one of the most oxygen-consuming organs. Okay, and they are most vulnerable to hypoxia. So that is why ischemia, hypoxia will decrease ATP and decrease pump activity, and that will lead to what? The neurons will stop functioning, and that will damage the neurons. Damage the neurons. Okay, so that is why neurons have two things. They are the most one of the most oxygen-consuming organs. Okay, so that is why brain has very high oxygen demand. In fact, book says 70 to 80% of entire, you can say, energy is used by pump. So brain has a very high oxygen demand. Why? Because that's why it cannot do anaerobic metabolism. Why? It's like an air conditioner, or let's say example some hi-fi machine. Okay, it will not run on batteries. Okay, it requires proper high voltage supply. So same way the brain cannot work on a very little supply. Okay, like these batteries which I have, they can run the remote, but they cannot run my air conditioner or laptop. They are not having sufficient energy output. Same way your brain cannot work with anaerobic metabolism. So that's why brain is almost 100% aerobic. So that is why brain is almost 100% aerobic. 100% aerobic, and it is most hypoxia and ischemia prone, and it is most vulnerable to hypoxia. So hypoxia causes very severe injury. So it is most vulnerable to hypoxia. So which organ is most vulnerable to hypoxia? Answer is brain. And brain also which area? The answer is the one which is creating the conversion of memory all the time. So that's why hippocampus is almost always. That is why, and there also the answer is hippocampus is most. So that is why when you are studying, make sure you are having enough glucose and enough oxygen supply. Otherwise, the hippocampus will have problem converting short term to long term memory. And whatever I am teaching right now is all going to be short term memory source. Okay, and if you don't have ample hippocampal conversion, it will not become long term memory. Okay, so that is the case here. Okay, so hippocampus is most affected by hypoxia. That is why any trauma injury to the brain can cause amnesia. Okay, so the patient doesn't remember the reason or the cause. So hippocampus is one of the most affected regions. Okay, most affected by hypoxia. Okay, now second thing, therefore also this pump is responsible for maximum active transport. So next question, it is responsible for maximum active transport, okay, in body. Example, GIT, kidneys. So remember, whatever transport occur in GIT and kidney, bulk of that is because of the sodium potassium pump. You see that in kidney, you can go and just watch the kidney video, you realize that sodium potassium pump is pumping sodium out, and as the sodium goes out, the sodium from the urine is pulled in the cells, and it can come with chloride, with bicarb, with glucose, or can be exchanged with potassium or other acid, etc. That's why bulk of the kidney transport are dependent on sodium potassium pump. So that is why ischemia, like shock, the kidney again stop working. So that is why these organs again require good amount of blood oxygen to function. Clear? So technically, our heart is pumping blood, but to pump the blood, we need to contract, and to contract need ATP. Clear? And to make electrical impulses, RMP again requires the sodium pump. Sodium potassium pump is required for the brain to make your neurons fire and make you talk, listen, move. Same way your GIT can depend on the pump. So pump is some way you can say basic source of energy demand of the body. Okay, so therefore it is also responsible for what? Next is it maintains cell volume. It maintains cell volume. Okay, it maintains cell volume. Why? Not just it help in RMP AP transport, but also help in the cell volume. How? I'll give example. Example is cell injury. Now most common is hypoxic, and hypoxia most common is ischemic. Okay, so hypoxia. So most common is hypoxic injury. Okay, and if they ask you what the most common cause of hypoxia, there is stagnant hypoxia, ischemic hypoxia. Okay, so now in cell injury, what? There are multiple effects, but the most common effect is what? It will lead to a decreased ATP production because of lack of aerobic, you can say metabolism, decreased ATP production. So that causes decreased sodium potassium pump activity. As sodium potassium pump activity reduces, what happens? There would be sodium accumulation because sodium cannot go out in ICF. Okay, compared to previous value. Okay, so sodium accumulates in this. Okay, and also they bring calcium also because of this exchanger. So there's a sodium calcium exchanger. As sodium increase, you want to dump the sodium. So to dump the sodium, you throw sodium with exchange with calcium. So also increase calcium. You know this. Okay, increase calcium also. Now this sodium causes what? It causes osmosis, increase osmosis and entry of fluid inside. Okay, now I'll give you a very simple thing. Okay, now and this calcium it triggers enzymes like phospholipase, endonuclease, which damage the cell membrane, endonuclease, okay, lipase. So they will damage the respective structure. Now as the fluid enter, I told you, so as the sodium is increased, it brings the water, and as the water enter, it causes the cell to swell up. And you know what happens? It looks like a cloud, so it causes cellular swelling, also called as cloudy swelling, okay, and very special name hydropic change because the water is entering. So hydropic change. Sometimes blebs can be formed, blebs, and if you give ATP on time, these changes will restore. Why? Because the pump will start and the things will return to the normal. What happens? If blood or oxygen supply restored, that is ABC. ABC, that is airway breathing circulation. Okay. Yeah. And so if you maintain the ABC restored, if is restored, pump will start working. And what happens? Yes, the volume returns to normal. So volume will return to normal, and that is why it's called as reversible cell swelling. Reversible cell injury. Are you clear? So that is why it is called as the reversible cell injury. So first question, what is the hallmark of reversible cell injury? The answer is hydropic change. The answer is hydropic change, which is nothing but swelling, okay, due to accumulation of fluid. Second question, which cell organelle ATP are formed? Mitochondria. So that is why the first organelle affected is mitochondria in reversible cell injury is mitochondria. Clear? And now understand, if it shows small amorphous density, it is reversible, and if large, it is irreversible injury. Okay, so it shows amorphous densities. So I'll not go in that direction because then integration is completed with physiology. No need to go in details of small, large, all this. You know this thing. So first organelle affected mitochondria. What the first biochemical reaction is ATP production decreases. What the change in the mitochondria? Obviously it clumps and stop making the ATP, that is amorphous densities. Can be small, can be large. Okay, small or large. Large is mainly irreversible. Okay, small is mainly reversible injury. Okay, and these enzymes then damage what? They damage the membrane, cause this, and they then take the membrane towards irreversible injury. Okay, or this if don't restore, then also irreversible, and that cause cell death or necrosis. So cell death or necrosis will take place. Okay, so the basic summary. So that's why if you can keep the sodium potassium pump functional, if you can keep the sodium potassium pump functional, the necrosis will not occur, the cell death will not occur, and that is what the basic idea of this HeLa cell culture. So technically, a cell is immortal if abundant nutrients provided. Okay, is immortal. Example, HeLa cell culture. So you know the story. So she was an African American woman who had cervical cancer. Okay, so they extracted her cells, and the amazing thing was that these cells kept dividing. Okay, otherwise the cells outside the body they don't survive homeostasis, but they keep dividing and keep growing. In fact, all the cell cultures we do using these cells, the sample you can say the doctors took, and that in 1950s she died, but cells are still alive. Okay, and we actually can clone them. Okay, so that means technically Henrietta Lacks, the initials Henrietta Lacks, she is still alive in the form of her cells. Okay, and they're used for abundant scientific research, and that is the idea. So that means the organism somatic death is because of either heart or lung fail, so they are not able to supply enough oxygen, this, and that is why the cells are dying, and that causes then obviously death of the organism. But cellular death, okay, can be postponed, delayed, or even can be stopped if we have enough, you can say, abundant energy available, and also to repair, etc. We need what? The cell to divide multiple times, and therefore the telomerase play a key role. Okay, so that's why there are multiple theories like calorie restriction, which can increase the lifespan. Okay, why? That's very simple. If there is less calorie intake, the oxidation decreases, free radicals decrease, and again that will cause less wear and tear of the cells. So that is why multiple things are there. They are all taught in what? Pathology also. So I'm not going that detail. Like wine, red wine contains sertraline, which again is antioxidant. All of this glutathione, vitamin A, C, E, they all are antioxidants. So these things are part of physio also, path also. Okay. Okay, no one knows why. Okay, clear. So that's the case. Now let's come to the next point. So therefore, all cells to be alive, what do we need? ATP, obviously. So that is why. Okay, what are we working right now? Okay, we're working to earn money. What do we want to earn money? To buy food, and this food gives us ATP. So ultimately, we all revolve around that cycle of life and death, and that is by the ATP. So let's start the second discussion. So second discussion is okay, maximum ATP consumption in body under resting or better word would be basal conditions is by this pump. Hence, BMR depend on this pump. Are you clear? So that is a very, very important concept. So basal metabolic rate depends on the sodium potassium pump. Okay, now understand it's basal conditions. Why? Because when you are exercising, the muscles are using bulk of the energy. Okay, and they can use almost 10 times more energy than the pump is using. So that is why what is the main, you can say, cause of energy? One is BMR, which is causing energy consumption. Other is exercise. So that's why we have to exclude the exercise. Okay, so that is called as the basal condition. Hence called as BMR. Hence called as BMR. What the values will be right for males and females. So it is around 37 to 42 kilocalorie per hour per meter square. It is less in the case of females. Okay, so in female it is around 30 to 35 kilocals per hour per meter square. So this is the BMR. So females have a lower BMR. They have a lower BMR. Okay. Okay. Now and with age the BMR decreases. Okay, and old people also decrease BMR. So now question is what thyroid does. So thyroid stimulate the pump. Okay, to increase the transcription of the proteins which are making this transcription. And as the pump increases, it consumes more and more ATP, and that's why BMR increases. So I don't know things. Okay. So this pump and BMR. So this pump and increase BMR by thyroid. Are you clear? So this pump and BMR are increased by thyroid hormone. Okay, we'll discuss that in details when the topic of endocrine is covered. But remember that it is the basic root cause of increasing BMR. Okay. Now, does this pump also play a role in the, you can say, yes, role in the RMP? I told you yes. How? It creates high sodium oxide, and that allows sodium to come cause the AP. So if you block the pump, AP will stop. Same way, if you block what? This pump, RMP will also stop. So therefore help in RMP via ionic concentration, and directly also how? Okay. So it also help in genesis of RMP directly. Not just by concentration effect, but RMP directly. But only 10 to 20%. Hence minor role. Hence minor role. So that is why we classify it as what type? As a minor role category. At what type? As minor role category. Okay, why? So first, it is an electrogenic pump. Which pump? Electrogenic pump. So remember the statement. So it is which type of pump? It is an electrogenic pump. Now what do you mean by this term? It is an electrogenic pump. The meaning is it creates electrical potential. So it pump 3 sodium out. Okay, that's right. It pump 3 plus out. Okay. So what it is going to do? Okay, so it pumps 3 plus out. Okay. So right. So it pump 3 plus out and 2 plus in. So there's a net loss of plus inside. So there is a net loss of what? Plus inside the cell. So net loss of plus inside the cell. And if there is a net loss of plus inside, what is it? It create negative potential. Create negative value and help in RMP genesis. Okay. So therefore it is creating a effect directly also and via potassium also. Okay. So they ask you RMP genesis. So what is the statement from RMP genesis? ATP genesis. So what are most factor? Potassium, then chloride, then sodium, potassium pump. Now potassium is the main, 70 to 80% role. Chloride is 15-20%. Pump is just 10%, 10-15%. So it's a minor most role. Okay. Now one more interesting question. If this pump stop working, the neurons will remain at RMP or they will start creeping towards zero value. So obviously they will go towards zero value. And what do you call when it go towards zero? That is less negative. That is depolarization. So that is one more interesting thing is, okay, in hypoxia, the pump stops and RMP move towards zero. That is less negative. Now less negative is also called what? Depolarization. And you know depolarization can cause what? It can cause increase firing, increase APs, okay, and excitability. And that is why it can cause arrhythmias in the heart and seizures. So ischemia can cause arrhythmia, okay, and also it can cause seizures because hypoxia will cause depolarization. Okay, so understand this, okay, why? Because the pump will stop and the RMP will not remain -70. From -70 it will go towards zero, that is -60, ultimately go towards zero, and that is called as depolarization. And depolarization generate more and more APs. So therefore it can create more APs. See, APs will eventually stop. The APs will eventually stop once the ATPs are over. That is the person is dead, neuron is dead, or you stop supplying the flow. Okay, so that is why either give the blood oxygen, it will stop, or the person is dead, stop. So eventually stop the blood. Okay, but the time of this ischemia, they might have increased firing. That is why hypoxia is again a risk factor for arrhythmia. So remember, hypoxia and ischemia can create arrhythmias and seizures. Okay, so that's a very important point in this case. Okay.